One day pregnant and 4 kilos of cocaine on my kitchen table.
If you say something that you realize, oh, I shouldn't say that because there'll be an indictment, just stop.
I won't tell you where the dead bodies are.
Welcome to the Recovery Idiot. Please like and subscribe and visit therecoveryidiot.com. Please follow us on social media and possibly have your credit card information stolen. The following contains explicit language and situations that some might find unsettling. Viewer discretion is advised, so buckle up, Buttercup.
She's Barbara H. with the resting bee face. She's the only one from Florida. We never call her Barbara. Now helping others is her job. We love resting bee face Barb. Her journey started on a plane and led to Mickey's and cocaine. Horrible boyfriend, she should have ran. Instead, she was caught with 4 kilograms. She met a snitch while on the streets. Snored bus bar off prison concrete. Now she's a pillar in recovery. Come to her office, she'll test your pee. She's Barbara H. with the resting bee face. She's the only one from Florida. We never call her Barbara. Now helping others is her job. We love resting bee face Barb.
So finally,
Finally.
you have blessed us with your presence here at the Section 9 studios in beautiful Stuart, Florida. So I heard about you before I met you, because I was in jail with a bunch of people that shockingly were in the recovery world and had lived at the halfway house you work at. Many people were like, you need to talk to Barb. She's so cool. Tell Barb. I said, what's up? And then when I finally saw you, I was like, shit, she looks mean. I do not want to talk to her. I've been told I have resting angry face, but you definitely have resting psychotic bitch face at times.
Yeah.
And I was very afraid of you for a long time. You know, one of the great things about you is you have this amazing bullshit detector. And I've seen people sit there and just put up such a good lie. And I believe it. And you just get this look in your face like, this motherfucker, I know. And it's just great. And I've seen you do that a lot with a lot of my old roommates. After getting to know you and not being afraid as much, you've definitely become one of the more influential people in my life because of your story and where you ended up. And I know you help a ton of people that are still around because of the things you've done. So how exactly did you get to that place?
Are we talking about the beautiful sober living, or are we talking about how did I get here today?
Well, both. But I just realized I never mentioned your name. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Barbara. I'm a recovering drug addict.
Yay.
I would have never said alcoholic, but I definitely ended up on that path as well. In the latter part of my addiction, I'll take the badge for both. I was born and raised in Miami.
So you're actually from Florida.
I am. I'm a native.
You're the one.
I'm the one.
And what are you?
An alien.
No. Are you Spanish, Puerto Rican, Cuban?
My grandmother was born in Nicaragua and raised in Guatemala. My father was born there and raised, and then they brought him to the States.
I've been wondering that for 5 years.
Yeah, it's in my eyes.
Do you speak Spanish?
No, much like these, my grandmother put these on my head when I was little, trying to instill it in my brain, and I get the rebel from my dad, so it never stuck, and I really do wish that it would have.
So you're not afraid of being deported by Trump?
I was definitely born in North Miami, in North Miami General Hospital. I don't have anything to worry about. I don't ever want to see a pair of cuffs again, so I don't want to get deported. How did I get here? It's very split down the middle. Like parts of my childhood, it was almost like 2 different houses. Like one house was all glory, 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 and religious and love, and there was just love surrounding the whole house, and it just felt like your typical white picket fence, green grass, loving family. And then my house where I had to go home to every night was very sinister. It was kind of like my version of heaven and hell. Everything was good at one house, and then everything was just not right at the other. I took my first airplane ride at 6 months old. Did not have any idea at 6 months old, but this is definitely where it starts. My mother decided that she definitely wasn't ready to have 3 kids. So she put us all on a plane from Michigan back to Florida to my dad. And my dad basically raised us, and that required him to work like 2 jobs, side job, never home, no parental guidance. So therein lies multiple problems in a nutshell: rejection, abandonment, and no parental guidance. He ended up marrying a woman from England. And this is where all the sinister part comes in, because she was a very odd woman.
Besides just being English?
Yeah, I wouldn't mark that as the problem. Now that I think about it, I don't know how mentally stable she is. I don't hear of other families. I hear of Yahtzee night. I don't hear of spin the bottle night. Like, those are the types of weird things that happened, and game night. Definitely remember my sister outside naked doing jumping jacks as her dare. When they're like, describe your family, I'm like, have you seen Devil's Rejects? So I'm just like, it was very sinister. Just one place to another. So I was introduced to religion at a very young age, walked into a Catholic church, definitely left thinking I was going to burn in hell. They definitely instilled that. And I remember it being very loud, like the message was given like almost in a screaming manner. So everything was like, you do this, you're going to hell, you do that, you're going. They converted to Christianity, and then I was drowned at a very young age and given a golden cross. Religion was picked for me, and if we didn't go, then we got spanking. Spankings turned into, my dad was a very angry man. So once his wife from England left, she got really sick, so she went back to England. Better doctors, better health. He was very bitter, very angry, and he would hold it all in, and then he would explode. So there was times where
That sounds familiar.
definitely looked like
Spalding from Devil's
Jesus
Rejects.
Christ on the cross. Open lashes, bruises, everything. I mean, it was just to the point to where he would start and couldn't stop. He had his favorite. Unfortunately, I just left her funeral, my sister. She let, he always made sure that we all knew she was favorite. And if you would ask him why, he would say, well, she always does what I ask. So with all that and no parental guidance, and my dad feeling sorry about himself or whatever he's done, drinking started probably at 11, smoking cigarettes, hanging out, block parties. I think I dated a guy 10 years older than me at 11. I was like, my dad loved him like a son. It was just very weird.
Oh, Jesus.
Big mouth Mickeys.
Oh, man. I haven't thought about one of
I
them
know.
in forever.
They were the
little
best, dude.
Tiny.
Yeah. And then I remember I was probably a little bit older than that, and I really screwed up. Like, I let somebody drive my dad's car in the front yard, and they stole a bunch of, or they didn't steal. See, I had to give people things because I thought that would make them stay, because there it goes back to 6 months old, mom leaving, everything, so it was like I was paying people to stay in my life. Mm-hmm. So my friends, I would get gifts, I'd give them away. I let them raid my dad's trunk of hundreds of dollars in fireworks. So I knew what was coming. So I definitely another ass beating. I got on a plane and went to live with my mom. Later on in life, I found out that my oldest sister told us that, he molested her all of her life. So it was a really bad time in my life. I actually, character defect, fell in love with a guy in a bar. And
Who hasn't?
yeah. Well, I hope you. I just hope not.
Not at
you.
the bar, just
not
at the
the
club.
bar, just at the club. I remember kissing him one night, and my whole mouth went numb. And I was like, whoa.
What's that?
What is that? And I remember talking to the guy at the bar who was a friend of mine, and I was like, I just kissed him, and my whole mouth went numb. He's like, oh yeah, he does coke. So I was making really good money at the time. I had 2 jobs and started feeding his habit to keep him around. Got addicted to cocaine, and
It is Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Next thing I know, I have woken up one day pregnant and 4 kilos of cocaine on my kitchen table. And SWAT,
So you're
DEA.
saying that the baby brought the kilos of cocaine? Is that what you're saying?
No, Dad, my boyfriend and boyfriend's father did. So SWAT, DEA, and South Miami Police Department all had decided to have a party at my house as well. I believe they came through every window, every door. I was pregnant with my son. The guy's like, lay on the floor. I am laying on the floor. Tried to put his foot in my back. Hey, I'm pregnant.
They don't care.
Definitely peed my pants. I sat in jail in the Miami-Dade County Jail, which is like a third world country all in itself.
There's a very good Nat Geo special about
Yeah.
Miami-Dade County.
Yes.
And it looks like
Yes.
actual hell.
Yeah, you might find insects you've never seen before. I sat there for quite some time, and every guard that I saw was like, Henderson, you don't belong here. What are you doing here? I got that a lot. They let me out on house arrest. They put an ankle bracelet on me. I was pregnant, so they couldn't tighten it, so I would slip that thing off. And I was doing blow while I was pregnant and going out and breaking the law. I'm learning nothing. So I give birth to my son, definitely positive for cocaine. They try to take him away from me. Every time I ever got sober back in those days, it was because I had to gain something. Like, you're going to take my son? No, you're not. I'm going to stay sober and I'm going to get my son back. But every time it was like the gift. I got it back. It was like, yeah, fuck this. Like, I could never, ever, ever do this again and have something dangling in front of me, because I will always go straight for what's dangling in front of me with no good intention. It's just like, I need that back. Give it to me. That 4-kilo thing got my husband 7 years in prison. So after that, I raised my son by myself. I went to school, went to college, changed my life a little bit, became kind of like a weekend warrior, more drinking, less drugs kind of thing, not doing any harm. I was living with my mom. We moved up. She bought a house in Hope Sound. That's how I ended up in Martin County. I started working in the health field, which I loved. After he got out, we moved up to Gainesville.
You lived in Gainesville?
Yeah, for a little bit, right outside of it.
I lived in Gainesville.
Yeah.
That place sucked.
Well, guess what? You can find cocaine there too.
Yes, you
so
can.
So he started back on cocaine. So we ended up coming back. One night in the middle of the night, I have like what sounds like a stray dog scratching at my window. It ended up being a woman that I went to school with and worked with, and it was my friend at the time. Well, a few months later, my husband left me for her.
Oh, Jesus.
It was great. So I have a big thing with women. Not just because of the 6-month-old on an airplane because your mom doesn't want you. I don't trust women at all. And the women that are in my life now, I know they belong there. Otherwise, it's going to take a while for my face to rest or break that rest. I think it's very hard. But I know that if they keep coming and keep coming and keep trying and they're not intimidated, and then I'll try to start being vulnerable around them. But definitely backstabbers.
Well, you're not completely wrong. I mean,
I'm not bashing all women. there's some.
Oh, no, I think a good 99% of recovery women are garbage.
But this is old mentality speaking now, because what I've learned throughout the years is that, hey, I told my kids I would never do this to them. I told them I'll never leave you. And I did, and in such a worst way. Like, there's nothing like having your mom standing there but nobody being home, or going out to dinner and her face is in her soup. Like, there's nothing like that. So I left them in a worse way. Actually, when I met my daughter's father, he was actually psychotic. I have a thing about going someplace and I can say, yeah, that guy's a drug dealer, and the next thing you know, I just happen to be dating him. And here's where I start exploring with like ecstasy and all, now I'm tripping acid, and I'm doing acid and ecstasy, tripping balls, and definitely had lots of fun going to all kinds of clubs, hanging out with bikers. That broadened my horizons a lot. Definitely when you're doing MDMA or ecstasy, you see a lot, you feel a lot, and you're like, whoa. And then the next day you're straight and you're like, I just saw all that. Yeah, definitely.
See, I was always the next day, I need to do that again.
So at this point now, I'm like doing everything. I'm definitely doing all the party drugs in the clubs. And I mean, we would go to swingers clubs, we would go to nightclubs, we would go to stripper clubs, and it was a fast lifestyle. But, I was with my daughter's father, so it was always you sit there and behave yourself kind of thing. And I would watch him have fun. Seeing what my friends are going through, I definitely was happy to be sitting in my spot. He finally went to prison. Well, not because he damn near killed me, but, I tried. They finally convinced me, hey, we need to put this guy away, otherwise he's going to end up killing somebody. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to live the rest of my life wondering when you guys are going to let him out. And they were like, listen, we're serious. He'll never get out. And I was like, okay. Well, they finally get me to agree to this. And like shortly after that, they're like, oh, we're going to plea bargain him out, so he'll be out in 2 years. I'm like, screwed me. You screwed me, and now he's going to come and get me. But shortly after getting out, he did almost kill somebody, so he's doing life plus 30. And, his hands are registered as lethal weapons. I mean, he's rearranged my face so badly that I didn't even know who I was. I mean, doctors were amazed that I recovered from that. It's pretty scary times.
You have horrible taste in men.
Oh, I do. My picker is definitely broken. I need to get that out of me and stomp on it until it's broken completely.
I understand, but I do that with crazy women, so.
I think I'm going to be a nun for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I said that I'd be a priest, but they got a bad reputation.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing good in this world anymore. In the interim of the trial where he gets out in 2 years, where they give him the plea bargain, I go to Jiffy Lube to get my oil changed and end up leaving with a boyfriend. Yeah. Another bad one.
Does he at least work on your car for free at the time?
He knows more now than he did then.
Okay.
I can just say that. I don't want to say anything bad about him because I do care about him a lot. He's a good friend of mine now. We just didn't work. 10 years younger than me. See how that flipped around? Yeah.
You gotta try both sides.
Yeah, definitely went there for one thing and left with another.
So while baby's father is on trial for
Trying to kill me.
you go and meet a new guy.
Getting an oil change, yes. I think it was the Ocean Blue Eye.
Yeah.
But I took him to a strip club for his birthday and ended up getting in a horrendous car accident. And now I'm going to pain management. Now I can get pills, anything I want. And any side effect from the pills, you can get more pills.
And anxiety produced by the Oxycontin,
Yes.
take some Xanax.
Yep. So now I'm taking pills for pain, pills for breakthrough pain, and then pills for anxiety.
I love to
Yes.
break through
Yeah.
pain because I could get my
30s
80
and 15s.
Yes.
I'm trying to do my best to just maintain this. So I realized that I'm really addicted to these things. Maybe I should get off. And I did with all my heart try. I was supposed to have surgery from that car accident. Now I'm going through these parts of walking around and then just like losing feeling. So the doctor said, you have to have this surgery. So now I'm having surgery on my neck and now more pain pills. I got engaged to the guy from Jiffy Lube and I am like a catatonic person. I'm raising a child by myself, my daughter. I had sent my son to live with his dad because my daughter's father was psychotic. I was either getting my ass beat or I was getting high. So I didn't want my son to be part of that. So Chris, who is my fiance now, ends up leaves me in an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment with my daughter. And I try to maintain that, but I'm so high now I can't keep a job, and now I'm depressed because he's not there, and I was pretty codependent on him after my surgery, my neck surgery. But he had had enough. Like, he was raising my daughter. It wasn't his daughter. I just was numb. I just numb. Xanax, sleep, pills, no feelings, no emotion. So I end up going to Jensen. Now I'm wheeling and dealing in the pills because now I got to make rent, and now I gotta flip pills, and I gotta get pills, and I gotta take pills, and I gotta figure out how to keep pills and get rid of pills, and give me 5, I'll give you 10. It's the bartering, my God, it was just awful. My Ford Explorer, the back window got bashed in the middle of the night, and that landlord finally was like, I know what you're doing. And I was just like, okay. He was like, I need you to leave. I end up going to live with a guy in Golden Gate, actually, and he's on pills. I mean, I just can't get rid of the pills, and then his pills end up missing. I was just like, I gotta get out of here. I can't continue this. So I end up moving in with a guy over
I see a pattern here.
in a townhome, and he was just a roommate. He was into pills, but he introduced me to the needle. I never realized, because I tried to kill myself with 90 Dilaudid. I never realized the high you got off of Dilaudids when you shot them up. And I would have never swallowed 90 pills.
Once you cross that point, besides, wow, it feels amazing, you look back and I spent years wasting those things, crushing them up. I spent all those years swallowing them. What was wrong with me?
The level just kept getting higher and higher and higher. I left there, and actually my daughter and I were pretty much homeless. Like, it was the coldest winter in Stuart. Like, it was freezing, and we're in a trailer in Hope Sound, and there's no power, no water. She didn't go to school for like 30 days. I was like the biggest piece of shit person. Like, I had no conscience. I was having to go to like Banner Lakes, to a dealer's house to bathe her, and it was just, it was bad. And now I'm into heroin. That kind of like found its way in. Yeah, it kind of found its way in. I've overdosed before, and I remember when I was, doing coke when I was in my late teens, almost 20. I remember like cutting off my circulation and like in the middle of my sleep, and I remember having like an outer body experience of like what death was, and it was all filled with white light and hearing the angels singing, and I was happy but scared that what I experienced. But when I overdosed on heroin, it was the complete opposite. Like, I went to the abyss. I went to a darkness that you not only saw, but you felt. It was blacker than any black. And I remember telling myself, this is where you're going to spend eternity, here in this dark. And I woke up, and, I tried a couple times to end it all, and that didn't work. Overdose didn't work. I don't know. I just don't know why I couldn't just like take myself out. Then the girl's trailer that I was staying in, she used my phone one night. She was trying to score some heroin, and we ended up, I'm making $5 off the deal because they're all my connections. I end up going to McDonald's to get my daughter some dinner. I'm in the car. She goes off with the other guy to go get the stuff and comes back. The whole time the guy I'm in the car with, who was like my ride or die, got pulled over one night with a needle in his trunk. Now he's flipping on people because he doesn't want the misdemeanor. So now I'm being set up, and like they have me on video, like with my daughter in the car, and then she comes back with the heroin. Well, I become part of this big sting.
So one day, completely accidentally, I was going through...
Mugshot?
Yes, because I love my mugshots. I'm not afraid of them. I'll show you some. It was weird because it came up in Facebook. Had this interesting case. This isn't just an arrest. This is 47 people with
big sting.
DEA. Like, this was a huge thing. How did you get involved with these people? You were just a street level drug user, correct?
Oh, yes. So the kid that was pulled over with the syringe in his car, so I fell into this sting.
Do you remember which one it was?
What do you mean?
Which guy? Is he in here?
Oh no, he wasn't arrested.
Oh, because he ratted you out.
He rolled over on plenty of people, so he didn't get arrested.
So when I see this, I had no idea that was you.
Yeah.
Until I read it, and somewhere in there was your name. But that doesn't look like you at all.
No.
And would you say this was the absolute
That was
worst
the worst
part?
of the worst. In this part of my addiction, I was actually, my entire world was dark. There was demons. Like, I had pulled darkness into my life. Like, entities, like even my daughter was getting affected by it. It was almost like there was a possession because I could hear the goodness in me like in a chamber begging to be helped, and it was like I could hear like this loud knocking in my brain. I felt like I was possessed by the devil. The hooks of opiates and the addiction had me. At that time, you can go to any pain management. Walk-in clinics were doing pain management, and I was getting like 120 30s. I was getting 60 Ds. People were like trading Opanas. Now I'm doing the one thing I said I'd never do because only junkies do that. Now I'm smoking crack. I'm shooting crack.
And this was only
Fun
10
times.
years ago that the pills were that crazy in this area?
11 years ago.
Because now you break your back, they're giving you a 3-day supply of
Oh
Perk
yeah, they're
5s.
definitely very,
Times have changed.
oh yeah.
Have you ever run into any of these people again?
So the woman next to me, I was in the holding cell with her. And it's funny because, the charge that I got arrested for was possession of less than a gram of heroin. And I never had possession of it because the girl left me in the McDonald's parking lot. They couldn't find her, so I got slapped with the charge. So I'm in my mind, I'm like,
I didn't do anything wrong?
I spent maybe 65 days in jail for 4 kilos. I thought the next morning going in front of the judge, they're letting me out on my own,
That's the 19th circuit.
Yeah, I'm getting out tomorrow, and my doctor's appointment was the next day. So I'm in the holding cell with this woman next to me, and I'm actually like laughing, and she's like, "Yeah, we meet up tomorrow," and I'm already like wheeling and dealing, like in the holding cell, like I'm getting out tomorrow, and I never saw tomorrow. I remember going to court, like all of us, every person in the sting went to court that day. So they were just like running through 7 at a time, going in front of the judge, and you could either take the plea, you could let the judge sentence you just roll the dice. They come back with 12 years. You're joking, right? I'm like, it wasn't even a gram of heroin, and I never touched. Well, yeah, but she used your cell phone and you were there. I was like, yeah, I know, but it wasn't, I didn't do the deal. I never even touched it. And they were like, oh, the previous charge. I said from 20 years ago. I was like, you're joking, right? And they come back and they say 7. I said, nope, this is like a misdemeanor to me. And they're like, no.
In Florida, though, no, it's a felony.
I'm like downplaying this whole thing, and I'm like, no, 7 years, no, I'm not taking it. And they were like, Barbie, do you realize that you had your daughter in the car on this drug deal? I was like, shut up, man, you're lying. And they were like, we have the video. Do you want to see it? And I was so mentally, like, I was not there. And I was so screwed up on drugs. I'm detoxing in court. Like, yeah, I'm definitely shit my pants probably on the bus going to the jail, to the courthouse. The guards had to pull me out and say, we know you don't feel well and there's nothing we can really do for you, but you might want to go take a shower. Yeah, it was bad. My hair was like like a rat's nest. And I'm still like, no, I'm not taking 7 years. So they came back and they said, all right, 3. I said, I'll take it. Even though I didn't want to, I could have sat there all day and argued and argued and argued. Something just came over me and my mouth spoke without my mind telling it to. I was like, all right, I'll take it. I was in Orange maybe a week later, and I definitely left shortly after that.
This is like the thing in my life too, the stuff I've gotten away with, then I end up getting sent to work camp for stealing a hard drive from Publix, a thumb drive, my first felony in Florida, for 1 morphine 30, and 2.5 years of felony drug probation. Like, Florida has got it so messed up. I mean,
well, I'm gonna have to go more of a, I'm gonna have to take the more spiritual place with this one, because I tried so many times to kill myself. I had so many opportunities where I had overdosed. Once I came to terms, and it took a while because I was in jail, I was in prison. When I got to the prison camp, I play the crazy card because I'm still not, it's not connecting yet. It's connected now, but it definitely wasn't connecting there. I was definitely going to sleep or Thorazine that whole experience away because now I'm crazy. And, you ask and you shall receive, but definitely not going to let me sleep the whole time. Now I'm going to be on the work camp. Now I'm going to be on the outside grounds cutting grass.
When I got to Rock Road this time, I was so insane. And my life had been just, for a couple years, spiraling out of control. I was able to maintain it because I had a job and I was making money to pay for the stuff that I needed, to buy this stuff, to sell this stuff, to constantly have a diet of Adderall, Xanax, fentanyl, or heroin. But it was just nonstop and I saw no way out of it. Then I get in this accident and I go to court and I'm thinking I'm going to get out tomorrow because all I did was wreck my own car. No big deal. And the judge gave me a speech about how you could have killed a family. I was like, but I didn't. Let me out. When I got there, I was out of my fucking mind. I started detoxing, and it wasn't just like, oh, I don't feel good, blue flu or normal dope sickness. The years of benzos have put me into complete psychosis, and it was a wild adventure. I remember it all more clearly than I remember things that actually happened. The invisible friends I made, the places I traveled. I got to talk to God in person, and she sent me back on these different paths where if I did this would have happened. And probably a good couple weeks of complete insanity. It was a lot of fun, though. But I had the opportunity to just take psych meds and ride it out. I eventually accepted spiritual help and went a different way. But one of the big things at that time was snorting Buse Bar. It kept me from offing myself many times. One time you were telling a story and it hit me because you had this experience of snorting Buse Bar. Can you explain
not really,
that?
Because I'm out on the concrete slab and there's guards walking around, and they had one sergeant, she called herself Easy Breezy. She's walking around and not, here I am, like I'm crushing up the Buse Bar. The sun is just blasting me. I'm trying, but it's like gumming up. and there's no way that it's not snortable. And they talk about the God conscious voice in the book, but I was fortunate enough to start having these moments before I even worked a 12-step program. A voice just kind of traveled through me and said, what are you doing? You've lost everything. Look where you're at. And after that, it was bone chilling, the voice. It was honest. It was a pure voice. It was my truth. And I ended up, going back to psych and saying, I'm not crazy. And they were like, we know. I'm like, I'd like to get off these meds. Okay. And the next thing I know, I was fast tracked out of there. And that was a very volatile time for the main unit in Ocala, because the guard were using women as like a blood sport. A woman got killed the day I got there. I watched women get their asses beat by big, burly backwoods men.
Like the guards that work there?
Oh, absolutely. And I remember always telling myself, just keep your head down, just keep your head down, just keep your mouth shut. I was in C unit, and that was, Sergeant Q's unit. He was definitely the one that they're looking at for this woman's death. Every time the woman underneath me messed up, he would flip me out of bed, and he would flip everything out of my locker, and he kept telling her, every time you screw up, she's going to suffer. And I'll never forget, he'd put me straight up against the wall, get right in my face, and I would not react. The day they fast-tracked me out and I was walking to the to the bus to go to the work camp. He said there was a couple times there I thought you were going to just like, you were going to lose it and you were going to react. And I said, I'm not an idiot. I'm not an idiot. And, I go over to the work camp, which is literally next door. First thing that happens to me is I get my ass kicked by a woman that just doesn't like the way I look, which is fine. It wouldn't be the first time, not by a woman, but I'm not trying to get more charges put on me, so I just don't fight back. She gets kicked off the work camp. I go to the dog dorm. Now I'm training dogs. I don't know about anybody else, but to me, it was the best part of it. They needed me, I needed them, kind of thing. We both got something in exchange. It made the time go by. Then I realized that this is not my final destination. I'm going somewhere else. And I end up going into the hardest drug treatment program the prison system has, which is modality. That's where my
What's it
life...
called?
Modality. The Hollywood Women's Work Camp.
This is a place specifically for drug treatment.
Yeah.
But they didn't send you there while you were detoxing? They waited
No,
till...
yeah. I detoxed in the Martin County Jail. The only thing I think they really put me on was like Prozac for depression. It's funny because, the guy that set me up, I saw him when I first got to Artesian. I had to work at Dunkin' Donuts, so I saw him. He looked up and he saw me, and it looked like I thought he shit his pants.
I hope he did.
He turned pale. Like, people say that and you think it's just a thing, but I watched it happen. And I said, Patrick, I just wanted to thank you. I said, you saved my life. Whether that was your intention or not.
Still.
I said, I bet you lose sleep at night, though. He goes, yeah. And you could
That's
tell,
a fair
I
trade.
could tell that he's like still waiting at Dunkin' Donuts for his next hit.
Still could have punched
And I
him.
remember seeing, the cop that arrested me the night, and I was in Walmart, and I'm like running up to him like to thank him, and he's like, because he's like one of those undercovers, and he's just like, I'm just like, okay, I understand.
What I was saying before is I never got in trouble here. All my drug stuff was down in Palm Beach, and you can get pulled over and maybe catch a beating and get let go, or they throw your stuff away and they let you go. I had one encounter in St. Lucie County because I overdosed and crashed my work van, and the cop said we don't arrest drug users, just drug sellers or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's cool. And then the next time I got arrested, the cop starts asking me, like, thought he was kidding, and he's like, where do you get your heroin from? And I said, Mexico. He said, no, specifically. And I fucking forget the name, but it was like Pablo Guzman, whatever El Chapo's real name is, because that's what I said. And he was sounding like interested, and then he's like, oh, you dick, I know who that is. But when he brought me into the cell to wait to be booked, he took out his card and gave it to me. He's like, you give me a call in a couple days and, we'll get you out of this. And I'm looking around and there's other guys in the cell. And I'm like, no, I didn't make any deal. What the fuck? I don't know what's going on. And then when I got to general population, eventually it was just everybody's there because they got ratted out, or everybody I'm in the drug dorm 1 minute and then the guy takes off with all the stuff because he just made a deal and now he's free. And a wild place, this 19th Circuit in Florida. But hopefully I don't get pulled over if one of them watch this. So you're getting out of prison to go to the drug dorm.
So I remember pulling up in the Hollywood, Florida in the bus, and like there's women out there with like blue dresses on, and I'm like, oh man, this is a cult. Much like I thought AA was when I first started going to that. Definitely had to do chants in the morning. I mean, definitely questions were asked, that I still to this day remember very vividly. Like my first couple of days there doing my orientation and getting assigned a therapist and meeting the warden, meeting the lieutenant, meeting the clinical director. But they put you in front of this big panel and then they start asking you like really serious questions. My daughter got put into the system when I got arrested, and she ended up getting adopted because they said I was going to be away from her for too long. I didn't find this out until I was already in the drug treatment program. They asked questions like, if you were to die today, who would be at your funeral and what would they say? And I'm very bitter right now, and I'm very angry. I'm not happy about where I'm at, and I'm definitely know who I screwed over, and my family was just completely done with me. And I remember saying nobody and nothing. And I remember being in a class, and they said, if I were to give you $1 million, and everybody in the class had to participate, if I would give you $1 million right now, what would you do? I heard I would buy a piece of land, I would buy my mom's house, build my house, buy my mom a car. And I said, well, first of all, everybody in here is full of shit.
Because I would get high.
Because this is a drug treatment program. There's nobody buying anybody a house with this $1 million. I'm going to get high and I'm going to be dead by midnight. That's the truth. I'm going to get so high. I have nothing to live for. So, I mean, I was definitely a work in progress. I was very
But that was
angry.
being honest, because
Yeah.
I remember that time period I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure most of those girls got out and did get high.
Yes. Actually, you know, the lieutenant was very good about putting statistics in our face, because she would take like a group of us and say, look at the person next to you. One of you is not going to live. And I'd be like, oh, you're so full of shit. Well, the one girl that I did like there that was like a best friend to me while I was there, she got out. 2 days later, they found her dead in her car. You know, so that became very surreal to me that, yes, I could possibly become a statistic or a number or have a toe tag. That's how real the disease was. And I started to realize, you know, that now I'm in the work release part where I'm going to groups, but I also get to go make money, which, you know, creates a budget, kind of like, you know, one of your experiences in Halfway. They keep all your money and they hold it for you and they teach you how to budget and all that stuff. I remember they told me that my daughter got adopted and that they had taken her out of the country. So that was a very hard pill to swallow, because you're in prison, can't go running anywhere. And then they switched my therapist because my therapist moved on somewhere. So they gave me this one therapist and everything about her was fake. Like her nails were like a mile long.
I hate those.
Her hair was like weaved in, and she was very demanding. And I remember working 2 jobs. I was working at 2 different restaurants serving. On my one day off, she has the guards come yank me out of bed, take me to her office, and I walk in and I've got on like these sweatpants and I got my hands in my sweatpants. Well, she calls and has me put in handcuffs. Now I'm sitting waiting for the Homestead bus because they're shipping me to Homestead, and I'm still have no idea what's going on. So apparently my nonverbal communication told her that I was a threat to her and I was going to kill her.
It's that resting bitch face.
And it was my hands in my pocket.
Well, yes, I know, but I'm
Yes,
saying
so-
it's part of it.
Thank
What
God.
a dick.
Thank God I was authentic. Everything I did or put time into was my true self. The lieutenant, the warden, the clinical director, they were all like, no, we're not. We're not letting you send her back. We're not doing that. So she gave me like all this homework to do now, because now I'm on the radar.
She's out to get you now.
But what she did was she taught me something, and it was about nonverbal communication, and I had no idea that I made her feel threatened. I learned a lot about myself doing this essay, and I learned a lot about where I got it from. I got it from my dad. The clinical director called me in the next day and told me that I needed to take grieving counseling, and I was like, for what? Nobody's dead. And he was like, for your kids. And I was like, my kids are still alive. And then he said, not to you. And I'll never forget that hard, bold, factual truth split me. I mean, I felt like I had shattered in a million pieces, because it was the realest thing anybody had said to me. And that's where my life was. I realized at that point I had no family, no kids, no career, no house, no car. Everything I had to do from that moment on was going to be for my own survival. That's when I really dug in deep into the therapeutic side of it. And I ended up, you know, my mom picked me up there because she wanted, you know, I owed her money. So she knew that they were holding money. And she dropped me off at Halfway, and I'll never forget, she was like, don't call me for anything.
Where the...
Halfway in Hollywood. I'm in Halfway in Hollywood. Not soon thereafter, my higher power, God, you know, whatever, you know, tends to use my character defects to move me from place to place to place. Well, online dating is a great place for my character defects to take wings and fly. I end up meeting a guy, and this guy convinces me to come up to Stuart, which I am torn to pieces making this decision, because that's the devil's playground. But he's like, no, this community is really great, you know, everybody's in sobriety and it's a big community, like family. So I end up at Artesian in Stuart, right dead center in a neighborhood that I used
Where
to
it
get,
all started.
I used to get high in. It was 2 days later, the guy tells me, oh, I just want to be friends. So the first thing that I want to do is fear everything and run. And like, I've got my suitcase, I'm packing it up, and I'll never forget, man, it's that God conscious voice again that just comes swooping by, just like the wind blowing past my ear. And it said, just because that door didn't open, just stick around and see what I have planned for next. And then a major storm comes. It was a hurricane.
We all look up to you. You're like, you know, our leader. You're very wise. You've been through it all. But it's amazing to know that you also did some dumb shit for a guy in recovery.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Because you would stand up there at the house meetings and yell at the guys who were talking to the girls on that
Yes,
side.
because I know what it feels like
And
to be rejected and it not to work out.
It's, well, yes, the rejection part, but also the absolute insanity of talking to a guy or girl who's also a sick and suffering person like ourselves when we're still in the middle of being sick and suffering.
Yes.
Which, at the halfway house, even if we're sober, we are far from cured.
Definitely a junkyard full of broken down cars. Yeah. And nobody's fixing nobody else's car. You better just concentrate on your own car. I have to say, the halfway in Hollywood, that's where I had my first spiritual awakening, and it was very powerful, almost magical, and almost to tell the story, it makes me feel like I still belong in an insane asylum. But there was a lot of weird stuff, like a lot of weird energies going through that house. And the woman I was rooming with was going to school for all of this. And like she would do the cupping and she lit incense in the room and she always played like this manifestation music. I think because of what she was doing, it kind of just like
rubbed off
on me. The universe speaks to me in numbers. So it was just always repetitive. It got to the point to where one of the guards in the work release, I befriended her. I asked her to meet me. She was like the most down-to-earth person I knew. She was real. She never bullshitted anybody. So we meet for lunch and I'm really upset and I'm like, I think that I am mentally ill and I need to go to an insane asylum. And she's like, well, I think I'm going crazy. And she's like, well, tell me what's going on. And I was like, well, I hit the register and it doesn't matter what I put in. The change is either 555, 1111, or the amount is 444, 777. And it's all day long, every day. The reason why this started was because I had screwed up so bad. Like I had put a ripple into my timeline. And if I didn't correct it, I would have gone to an even deeper and darker place than any addiction had taken me. We had so many people coming into this place of work that I was at. I was in a high-end smoothie. We had health food and smoothies. And this one woman, we had churches, every different denomination come in, and there was all these spiritual people that came in. We had the Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat. It was very busy. So there's always blenders going on in the background. It's a loud place and it's always packed. Well, this one woman came in every single day, and I'll say it a million times. My entire life changed over 18 salad toppings.
Over what?
18 salad toppings. So I was so bitter and angry. I'm in halfway in Hollywood, no family, no friends. I don't want to get high, but I don't want to live.
Yes.
And I remember sitting by the pool, just imagining myself face first, floating. So that's a very dark, sinister place to be because there's no real reason for it now. This night, I'm already pissed. If you come in my hula hoop and you're happy, you're either getting bounced out or you're coming down to hell with me. People pretty much kept their distance. So this woman caught me on the worst time. And she's like, oh, well, can you go through the toppings? And I'm like, they're up there on the board. I was so rude. And here comes the facial expressions now. I'm like, she's like, they're up there on the board. She's like, oh, honey, I don't have my, sweet as can be, I don't have my glasses. And I'm like, now this nonverbal battle's going on and I'm calling out these, and I'm just, in my mind, I'm watching this woman get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and my ego is just filling the room. And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to the point to where it's a battle now and I'm winning and I know I'm winning. And I get to the last topping and I look up to call out the last one. She's actually crying. Like, I feel like God was in the room and I offended him. I'll never forget, like the wind blowing by my ear, the voice, the one that always talks to me, says, now how do you feel, Barbara? And I'll never forget the feeling that came over me. And I looked up at her and I was like, ma'am, I am so sorry. Her daughter said, you're good. And I was like, no. I was like, you don't understand. And the daughter said, I told you were good. She was like upset. Yeah, no, I can't take that. So I jumped over the counter and I go and I'm like, ma'am, I have no excuse why I just treated you that way. The only thing I can tell you is that I just got out of prison. I don't want to use drugs anymore, but I don't want to live either. I don't know where I'm at in my life. I have nothing here, no family, no nothing. I'm just here. And I'll never forget, man, she hugged me, she cried, she prayed with me. And it was right after that all of this other stuff started to happen. So back to the restaurant meeting Allie, and I'm telling her all these things. The redness climbing up her neck, and she's trying to hold this laugh in, and she's just like, her whole face is trembling now because she's giggling so much inside, and I'm getting infuriated. I'm like, Allie, it's not funny. And she was like, you're not going crazy, you're just waking up. So that spiritual awakening, you know, if anybody would have told me that kind of powerful thing was going to happen to me, I would have been like, you're so full of shit. To go through it it's just undescribable. It's a bliss, and they call it, I guess they call it the pink cloud thing. And I was always told during that time, hold on to silver strings, keep one foot on the floor.
All those
Because,
stupid things.
yeah, if you get lost in that. And I'll never forget, as soon as it came, it left. And I've tried to retrace those steps. Like, what was I eating? What was I drinking? What was I doing? And I ended up trying to live a purpose-driven life after that. So I'm at Artesian, and a big storm comes, September of 2017. It was bad enough we had to board everything up.
Yeah, we did too. And then I was so pissed because we didn't even lose power.
Every employee that worked at Artesian was supposed to stay, but they all dipped out. So it was me, another female house manager that took care of the people that stayed there. And we were without power for like
Really?
a few days, yeah.
Oh, shit.
We would have to go wait in line to get gas.
Oh, that one. Yeah, because we went down to the beach and all the, like, baby turtles had
Yeah.
washed up.
They offered me a job after that.
Because you rode out the
'Cause
storm
I wrote
and
out
kept
the storm,
everybody alive?
yeah. So I've been the housing coordinator there for 8 years now. It's been a hell of a ride. I've met a lot of people. I've helped a lot of people, and you don't really think about that in terms of, oh, I helped somebody. It's when they've got 5 years sober and they hit you up on Facebook Messenger, or they call you on the phone, or they post and they thank you, or they write a book and talk about you. Like, those things have happened because I've been part of so many people's journey. And it's just a blessing that I've been able to live such a purpose-driven life.
Have you ever thought about trying to track down the woman who you hopped over the counter and said, I just got out of prison in a smoothie place and blew her mind?
No, I did think about writing a book, 18 Salad Toppings.
That would be a good book.
It's funny how these things work, because it was the very next day. I had to go in, and my boss and I opened the store that day, and she's, making chicken salad, and this guy that was autistic came in, and he wants her to go through all 18 salad toppings, and she's like being the biggest bitch in the world to him, and I get to see it from the back, and I'm like, that's what you look like. And I remember walking out and saying, Deb, I got it. And I went with joy. With joy and happiness in my heart. I go through every salad topping. And that's how it carried on moving forward. Like, everything I did it with happiness. And I had pure joy in my heart. My bosses at that time couldn't believe the difference. It was like night and day. It was like I had finally I was happy for the first time.
One of the darkest periods of my life was sober at Blake. I have yet to work my steps, which it turns out was part of it. But I was angry, suicidal, homicidal. I mean, it didn't make sense that I'm doing everything right. I'm not doing drugs. Why isn't my life perfect? Why am I not happy? I had plans to do something really bad. And I'm like, if I just get in a fight with the girl, then I have no thing left. And then I can carry out this massive plot that the world will remember me by. And I was still praying all the time. And I remember praying that day, and I heard in my head, you have nowhere to move but forward. And it was clear as day in the room. I'm by myself, but I heard it and I felt it, and it's
bone chilling.
It absolutely was. And it took me a while, because I'm an idiot, to think, what did that mean? That day I went to work, and the whole time I'm working at the shitty job, it just keeps playing in my head over and over again. You have nowhere to move but forward. And it started to make sense. Like, look what you just went through in the past couple years, let alone everything you've gone through your whole life. You got to this point, you want to be a little bitch about your life.
Yeah.
You are now at the bottom. You have nowhere to go but up. And it was one of the many times I've heard that voice.
Yeah.
But it is hard to explain to normal people when they hear about somebody who the best day of their life is when they're hopping over a counter yelling at an old lady.
If I hadn't have made the amends right then and there, I'm telling you, there was some sort of ripple in my timeline that I did with that day. I had to correct that feeling. It was not something that I would want to do in sobriety.
These stupid mistakes when you let things build up. Principles in all our affairs. I was at a meeting speaking last night yelling about God and telling people your higher power, whatever you want to call it. I call it God because I'm stupid, and it's easier to say than my higher power and the spirit of the universe and all that shit. But I just don't care what you think. If this doesn't make sense to you, you probably shouldn't be listening, because you're not one of us.
Going to Artesian, it was just the next move for the universe to make for me, my higher power. Like I said, character defects, I'm all in. Just show me the way. So in 2018, I'm in the office with my boss, and who's also my dear friend. The phone rings, and I answer it, and it's the Martin County Courthouse.
What'd you do?
I know. I'm like, oh no. Like, what else did they find? Did they lift that big rock in the backyard? I'm just like, what? They're demanding that I show up there right now. Like, they've said, you need to come to the court and you need to go to this chamber and this judge. And so I get in there, and the next thing that happens is that they kick everybody in the courtroom out and lock me in. And I'm like, oh, this isn't good. Am I going back in orange? The judge comes in and she asked me, do you know this person? And I said, yes. And she says, do you know why you're here? And I said, nope. And she says my daughter's name. Now my daughter's in jail. And I'm like, whoa, that's a twist. She said, yeah, apparently she beat up the adoptive mother and she was trying to call you on her phone. The adoptive mother took her phone. Your daughter went to take the phone back. The mother started hitting her. Her daughter protected herself, but she ended up beating her. She said, that's not why you're here. She says, why you're here is that I've got an interesting letter here from your daughter, and your daughter's insisting that we place her back in your. She said, so what I want from you to do now is I want you to tell me about life before prison and then talk to me about life now. So basically I'm in there an hour telling her my story. She says, I want you to know that I have the power to give you your daughter. It's never been done here before. So in about 6 months, that was one of the best gifts of sobriety, was getting my daughter back. And it was also very terrifying because I didn't know how to.
And now you gotta do it sober.
Yes, there was never a sober mom for her. Never. I remember all the promises that were made by my daughter. I'll never throw your past up in your face. And I looked at her and I said, that's an absolute lie. The minute you get mad at me or I tell you no, it's definitely gonna come out. You know, she's a straight A student. You know, she's amazing. I can't stress enough how amazing she is.
It is one of the weirdest things because a lot of us know her because now she's an adult and we see her at stores by herself and she is completely normal.
Yes.
Like so polite.
Yes.
And so not the daughter of a
junkie.
Convicted felon junkie.
Yes, definitely not. And I'm so proud of her. And she's in college, bought her first car, saves money like she's a bank. And she's like my...
Opposite.
She's my ride or die. She is my complete opposite, yes. You know, one night she asked me to hang out with one of her friends who just happens to be the most toxic person in the world. And I said no. And this turned into every name in the book, everything that comes out, throwing my past up in my face. And it just got to the point to where I was just like, I'm just going to get you a shovel. She was like, for what? And I was like, because you keep talking about a version of me that's no longer here. And you can go dig her up and you can by all means kick her ass and punch her in the face. And I get that. But I'm not going to go back into that version of myself to validate your feelings.
I thought you were going to shovel because you're going to kill her.
Yeah, that too. No, definitely not. But I got to see her first prom. I got, graduation. She's in college now. She's making really good money at what she does. She's a lot to be proud of.
Have you seen any of the people from that incident?
It's like a blip. It's just gone.
This is one of the sad realities is that, like, I look back at the drug dorm that I was in with 30 people. Everyone's dead, or everyone's locked up again, or living in the woods behind Winn-Dixie. They talk about the statistics of people that get sober. I think it's a lot worse than that.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen anybody.
Oh, that's okay.
None of those
That makes
people
sense.
were my co-defendants. I was just in that particular, just like setting people up and kind of like running a train on somebody, just like one after one after one. That's basically how I got involved.
Have you seen the cop or any of the people that you dealt with back then?
No, I definitely feel that they saved my life. I would tell them all thank you. I would definitely tell the modality, the Devereaux group, the therapists and all of them, that they did a fabulous job. They didn't just teach me about, drugs, taught me about what the underlying issues were and, why I used drugs, what I was actually addicted to. I was addicted to a life. I grew up around it. My dad was a drug dealer. It all just comes into play. The victimizing and everything's woe is me and pity party. And one of the biggest things I've learned recently in sobriety is that you can't use addiction as a crutch or an excuse to being a piece of shit, because I've had to go jump into survival mode. I just beat cancer. Right after that, get into a car accident, hence another surgery, lose my job. Now I'm in complete survival mode because, surgery, back-to-back surgeries, that costs a lot of money. And then I lost my job, not at Artesian. I was the operations supervisor at a detox down south. And one day, just cut ties, just said a different direction and you're not coming. So my mental health kind of just like, I poured my soul into that, and I didn't ever realize it could be taken. I stood there at the kitchen table after getting fired at 6:30 in the morning by phone, just staring into space like I was lost. They shut off everything, my emails, the communication. So for the first time in 2 years, my phone was silent. Survival mode, to me, made me understand that those character defects were always there. They weren't created through addiction, because I can still fall into a place where I can be a piece of shit and it doesn't require me to get high. So I had to check myself real quick, because certain people have come into my life in this last couple of years that trigger versions of myself that I thought I had laid to rest. So I'm just like, I don't like, because you make me realize that the work wasn't done completely. So I've had to have mirrors in front of me for the last 2 years just showing me. And I have to be grateful for all of it. I have to be grateful for the sobriety, the gifts of sobriety, getting my daughter back. I went to a funeral today, saw my son. Haven't seen my son in 14 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was definitely surreal today.
You went through that and you still came here? Mm-hmm. What the hell's wrong with you?
Got to get the message out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
What happened with the son? Did you talk?
He was very, very kind. Gave me a hug. I did see him just a few weeks ago when she actually did pass, the day she passed, but it was very brief. Today was a little bit different. He actually came over to my house. Him and his sister had a good visit, so that made me very, very happy.
That is, because I remember 4 or 5 years ago.
Couldn't even talk about it without crying.
That's right.
If I ever had a chance to tell him that I didn't send him to his dad to abandon him, I sent him to his dad to save him. Seeing all of his sister got the brunt of it. She had to go through all of it. She was dragged through the homelessness, through the drug addiction, through shooting up, through watching me get my ass beat, all of it. She had to go through all of it. And both of them are highly successful. So I am so blessed that they could have gone either direction and they decided to do the right thing. I can't take credit for any of it.
No, you became a good example by being a horrible example.
Exactly.
They decided to do the opposite.
I, to this day, have to be grateful for the suffering. I have to be grateful for the pain, because great lessons have come out of that. I've met some of the greatest people in some of the lowest parts of my life. Just amazing, amazing people.
Dog.
And, blood doesn't, define family. People that I know today are my family.
The absolute best ending ever. The best message that anyone has ever said on the Recovery Idiot, and that fucking dog has to... Yeah, anything cannot do you talking to your fucking son today. That's amazing. That's one of the things I thought about, like, oh God, I hope she doesn't cry over her son because I want to keep this entertaining.
One of those situations where you hear people in the rooms telling their stories when you're at the fellowship hall or down at the park at that meeting, and you hear people talk about God's timing and how, doing your amends and doing your steps and everything, and you want it back right away. But if you force things, you're creating a design that you're just not prepared for. When things fall into my lap, it's because that's what's next for me. And when I tried to force relationships or tried to force amends or people forgiving me, it just doesn't work out. It makes things a million times worse. So finding grace and waiting, it made seeing my son a million times better. That's what God, my universe, my God, my higher power has next for me.
So if you had come over here the day after we talked, that would not have been a topic that you couldn't say you
Never.
talked to your son.
So it's all in good faith and good timing, because people need to know that it doesn't matter. People might know and respect me now and have no idea and people might look at me and say, you did that. and I'm like,
I hope so.
Yeah, I did that. And they would never have known that. But people need to know that they too, no matter how badly they beat themselves up for what they did, or they lost their kid, or this happened or that happened, there's always a path to freedom. And then there's always those things that are meant for you that are going to come back.
All you have to do is not get high, not sell
And
drugs with the police on
yourself.
the phone. I was going to say higher power, but yeah, that's a good way to
Believe
sum
in
it up.
something greater.
Just anything. Except a doorknob. Whenever I hear somebody at a meeting again say your higher power could be a doorknob, I'm punching them in the face. Here's proof that I'm not afraid to punch, fortunately. God, I'm an
really
idiot.
super proud of you.
Oh, don't be proud of me. I'm
I'm
moron.
proud of you that this is happening.
I'm
Coming from a guy that had a nervous breakdown in the office and I had to give him orange juice.
Wasn't the last nervous breakdown I had. You didn't talk about any of the crazy stuff you do today, though. Just give a little synopsis of
Crazy.
the thing with the women in the circle.
Oh, yeah. So, like I said, I've met some of the greatest people in sobriety and people that I'm not willing to lose. Eventually life will happen, but these people are really connected. So I realized that through my gifts at Artesian, I'm very gifted. Like he said before, people try to bullshit me and I have a bullshit detector. People are getting high, I'm on it. I knew before they knew. I realized that I have special, I think with my spiritual awakening, I have these special talents. I've questioned my sanity at times too. I've realized that I also have the power of healing. So I started getting my Reiki master. Now I can use my positive energy to try to help others, and those things have led me into opening other doors where I actually can do like remote viewing. And remote viewing is something they did in like the Cold War, where people would sit in a room and they could tell you like locations of bombs and bomb sites and stuff like that.
So this is how you continue to enlarge your spiritual life.
I'm just trying to stay connected to something greater than myself and using that power to help people.
Well, that's what's important. That's what keeps people going, because people think they can get sober and work the steps and live this life and then just stop.
Yeah,
when you stop is when you get high.
It branches off, so you have to figure out which way you're going to go. And I just try to be led. I don't try to force anything. So
some people decide to go to church, which that's great for them.
Yeah, I do that as well. I do go to church.
Well, when the hell do you have free time to do anything?
One thing about me is that I don't do well with idle time.
I know, I'm the same way.
I just don't. I can't sit in my own shit.
Yes, all I do is complain that I don't have enough time.
I
But
know.
when I have 5 minutes alone doing nothing, I lose it. That's why I created this monster.
Yeah, I have to say, I was inspired to, like, I'm going to start writing a book, and I just struggled, like, I can't even write a book if I don't have a title. You know, all these things started happening. I decided that I'm going to name the book because of it all. And I am who I am today because of it all. And everything that I went through got me here today, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm extremely blessed to have the people in my life that I have, and to have the gifts that I have, and to be a part of people's lives.
And sometimes it's okay to go to a sober house for a relationship, because sometimes it ends up well.
Yes.
99% of the time, no. But
No.
Thank you for watching The Recovery Idiot. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please visit theircoveridiot.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Let's see each other naked. And don't forget to hide your dad's kilos of cocaine.